Assalamu alaikum. I'm in a new location today because I am visiting family in Michigan. So I'm going to record this video from here. I was going to wait till I get back, but I was like, nope, I'll just do it here. It might ruin my YouTube aesthetic. Just kidding, there's no aesthetic. I just record. But yeah, I'm in Michigan, alhamdulillah, and I wanted to talk about the the thoughts that come up when you feel self-pity, when you see some other people get what they want. The whole feeling of like, yeah, I'm happy for them, but I'm sad for me, and what happens there, and how to really kind of get out of that as soon as you can. So I kind of want to explain it and help you through that. So how does this go, right? You see someone talking about their marriage, or they just got married, or you see some version of someone having a spouse. Your brain sees that and it goes, yeah, I'm happy for them, but I'm sad for me. And then it goes into the self-pity party about how you're behind and then there's something wrong with you and you're so behind, and like you should be married by now. And it just really spirals in shame and it just feels really bad. And ideally, what we would like to shift into is feel and under like recognizing when that comes up and snapping out of it and getting into a more empowered place of how you want to see that and how what you want to make it mean. So, for example, I had clients that started off with me feeling really self-pity every time they saw a couple that they've always wanted, and immediately that sadness and shame would come up. But now they're shifted into a much more like a powerful, like empowered way of seeing it, and more seeing it as inspiration rather than feeling sad for themselves. And so a little bit about the ego and the brain. Okay. The ego is designed to look for problems about like what's wrong with you. And the ego can show up in two different ways, right? It can show up as like, oh, I don't need this, and I don't need anything I want, and like it just kind of dismisses the whole want altogether. Or it gets really sad and it goes into self-pity of like, oh, what's wrong with me and why don't I have it and all this. And it's just there's many variations of how this shows up for people. Now, if you're someone who, as soon as it you see it and you feel sorry for yourself, most likely you already have that kind of dialogue in your head about it, about marriage, about what you think about yourself, about being single, and how you're so behind. So every time you see it, it's going to get triggered and it's going to make you feel like going down that rabbit hole. So the first step is first of all, if this is coming up for you, you're human. It's supposed to come up sometimes, but that's the default brain, you know? If we're living in a society that is designed to make women feel bad about being single, that's going to come up. But now to rewire that socialization, we're going to kind of see, okay, what does it mean to be single? And when I see a couple, how do I want to feel? And we have to decide intentionally, what do you want to tell yourself when that comes up, when that does happen? So in the beginning, right? Let's say we practice this, right? Okay. So I notice my default is every time I see a couple, the same record, the same set of thoughts keep coming up. What's wrong with me? I'm behind, all this, right? And because that socialization is so deeply ingrained, it requires a lot of patience with yourself to get out of that and to shift into something that feels more believable, more realistic for you. So what I often people, when they're shifting into, and I help my clients shift into a more empowered state, it's more of when you see a married couple, it's like, oh, alhamdulillah, like I'm so excited to see what Allah has in store for me. Oh, alhamdulillah, like I like this thing about the couple. This is what I want to add to like my dream list of like what I want to make dua for, or you know anything that comes up with that. Now, a little side note: if the feeling that comes up is sad that I don't have it, allow yourself to feel the sad, but I want you to be very careful about the shameful thoughts that come in. And when I say shameful thoughts, it's more of thoughts that make you feel like you're like something's wrong with you. So that it's normal, right? I see something that I want. Oh, I wish I had it. Let yourself feel a little sad. However, what I've noticed is usually when people are sad and are stuck in sadness, it's because they're anticipating their life being sad for the rest of their life. It hasn't even happened. They're anticipating that they're going to be single forever, and that's why the sadness comes up. It's not necessarily like if I showed you like, look, in 2 years you're gonna be married to the person you want, you're not gonna be sad when you see a couple that, that is married because you're like, oh my, I like it's coming. Why would I be sad? I know my turn's coming soon. So understanding your sadness, it's most likely an anticipation of you thinking you're going to be single for the rest of your life and that you're never going to find it and you're going to be single alone forever and going to die alone and that's all that's going to come up. So obviously that's going to create sadness. Now, the skill to learn for you is to distinguish between the real like sadness of like, oh, I wish I would have it at this time and I don't have it. And so, ya Allah, I'm sad and sometimes I feel lonely and I wish I could have it. That's one like type of sadness, let that come up, complain to Allah, allow yourself to feel it. The other sadness is more of like the shameful sadness of like, oh, like what's wrong with me? Like I'm never gonna get there. And that just doesn't feel good. It just feels terrible. And when you notice those thoughts, it's really helpful to first of all, the first step is always to recognize when those thoughts come up and to catch on to it next time. So oftentimes when I'm working on this with my clients, I like the first step is just like I'm excited for you to see another couple again so that we can recognize when that habit comes up. Like notice the pattern that comes up, and you'll notice it's kind of like a record playing in your head. Oh, like you're never gonna get that. It's only them. You're the exception. You're never gonna get it. Allah writes it for everyone else, but not for you. And it's not easy for you because you struggle and something's wrong with you. Like that, whatever thoughts those are, when you recognize it and you recognize it's just a list of thoughts in your head that keep playing over and over, you'll start having power over that. We don't have to change it right away. I just want you to notice the record playing in your head. And once you notice that, now you can choose, okay, what thoughts do I want to think instead that serve me better when I see another couple? And I always like to test this out, sometimes like, all right, like I'm talking to the client, like, all right, now let's bring up a picture of a couple that that you saw and you felt kind of bad about yourself. And we bring it up and then we notice the feeling come up. Okay, the thoughts are coming up now. All right, now we stop and we're like, okay, let's shake it off. Now what do you want to think instead? I want to feel happy for them, which you already do, but I want to feel excited for me. I want to feel that I know this is coming for me and Allah's giving me something even better and this and that and this. And so what happens is when you choose that story, you are more motivated to make dua from a much more empowered place, which the byproduct of that is that your duas get answered because you're coming from conviction. But if you're coming from shame and like nothing's ever going to happen for me, Allah just left me behind and he's abandoned me and all this, you're not going to get your dua is going to feel so weak, right? And also that's just doesn't feel good in general. It just you knock yourself down and it doesn't feel good. Okay? So like to give a summary, the trigger comes up, which is you notice a couple, your brain goes into anticipation of sadness of how it's never going to happen for you. And that like notice that, right? The anticipation of it is different than the actual sadness of not having it right now. But also the shameful thoughts, which is the ones that like make you feel really like ashamed of yourself. I'm so behind and I'm broken, I'm a failure for not having it. All of those thoughts, when you notice that, your job is to kind of neutralize those thoughts. And if you need help with that, you can book a session with me. I can help you with all those thoughts in one session, inshallah. But that's the step, right? You're recreating a whole new story to tell yourself in that moment. That's what you're going to rehearse every time that comes up. And why are we doing this? Because when you start becoming the person that doesn't get fazed by these triggers, right? Seeing a couple, you trust yourself a lot more. You start developing a much more intimate relationship with yourself. Like you feel more confident that you can handle any trigger that comes up because all it is just emotions and you're capable of feeling sad if you want to, but you also recognize that you don't have to anticipate sadness if like there's nothing the future hasn't happened, so why are we sad already? Like you're kind of your brain's kind of predicting that you're going to be sad forever, but that's not true. So it's good to catch on to that. And so, right? So we step one, step two, and then now like step three is actually rehearsing that story every time it comes up. And it's like I get excited for people when they do get triggered because it's such a great opportunity to practice that story over and over again. And you're becoming that woman that doesn't get fazed. And that's it. It's really just a practice every time. And so, inshallah, that's all you need to do. Create a story of what you want to tell yourself in that moment and keep practicing it, and you'll be surprised at how like more confident you feel every time you see that. And even my client was telling me, like, for example, she went to a wedding recently and she was like, I'm so happy for, like, I've noticed I'm so happy for them. I'm so excited for me. I'm so excited for my future. Like, if Allah can do it for them, He can do it for me. If Allah's, giving it to her, like, why not me? And you start making dua from that perspective, and you come from a much more optimistic, lighter place, more trusting, like, yeah, Allah, like, alhamdulillah. But shame blocks all of that. Shame goes, oh, but it should happen now, and it's haven't happened by now. Because it hasn't happened, then that means it's never going to happen. And then, we go back into that vicious cycle. All right. So inshallah, this answered the question, or the thing, and I will see you in the next video, inshallah. And oh, announcement. I have a Ramadan special coming up. It's called Soul Sync, where it's kind of the ability to learn how to reconnect your relationship with Allah, how to see the thoughts that are blocking you from a real, genuine connection from Allah. And I'm much more approaching it from a coaching perspective. And that is coming up very soon. Make sure you sign up on my email list, and the website to actually register for it is coming up soon. So it'll be great. It's an incredible opportunity to really prepare for Ramadan. And I hope I can serve you in the best way, inshallah. So I'm excited for that, and I'll see you in the next video, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.